Hey everyone, so I just want to talk about a few challenges, one being heat and the air quality issues and heat island issues stemming from that, as well as pollution in marginalized areas, which should not be entirely too unfamiliar to everyone, as we have had multiple people speak of that before. But to start off, Houston is in the southern part of the United States. It is very hot, it's dry. And there's, quite a bit of heat waves that go on with that. And as we know also that Houston has been quite a developing and developed city. There's a lot of buildings, and all of that kind of combined is creating a lot of heat islands, which we know can affect poor air quality. It can create higher energy consumption, greenhouse gases, and even affecting water quality due to the heated water that is coming from building runoff and road runoffs. So one thing that I thought of was green roofs. Green roofs is not a foreign subject to any of us, I don't believe, but it is when they have vegetation and soil up on the top of their roofs. It can actually lower the heat by 30 to 40 degrees on average in the bottom soil. So it's a great way to cool those surfaces that are normally very hot under conventional circumstances of like tarred or blacktop roofs. And one way I was thinking of and how they could implement green roofs would be through the 500 municipal buildings, or I should say over 500 municipal buildings that are spread throughout the city. Not only will this be a great way for Houston to control and not have to invest in the private sector to implement green roofs, but also it will be spread out throughout the entire city. So it actually could benefit more than just one specific area. And as we talk about economic injustice and social issues, this could be beneficial for the city. And though there is one challenge when it comes to that, green roofs have been historically done in general, but it's very hard that they're finding in Texas, in these very high heat areas, finding vegetation and appropriate plants that can actually survive in those heats on the roofs. That they have found a couple. They're sedum, they're basically flowering plants, but they found several species that can actually do that. So that's great to hear. So I think that is something that has recently been identified and can be used to push green roofs a little bit further. Also in the AgriLife Today article that I will put in my sources that I got some of this information from, that there is also one critical aspect to one company called Jacob White Construction Company, who has implemented green roof on their building, which they actually have identified that it has reduced 50% of their energy consumption, which is huge, especially because it's 11,000 square foot building that this has been a study at. But one one part that's been criticized is that they have been using a sprinkler system to allow to water the plants on the top, since rainfall is kind of hard to come by down in Texas. But how they've been doing that is they've been collecting building water runoff and road runoff in these like waterproof bins, and using that as the water to take care of the rooftop, though that has been a source of poor water quality. So one thing that I thought that could kind of overcome that pain point in this green roof situation, specifically with sprinkling on the top of the roofs, was to use rain gardens to help catch the water. And rain gardens are kind of like a natural purifying system that gets rid of a good amount of pollutions. I think roughly 70%. I'll put one of my sources in there. So that could be a great way to take care of that poor water quality issue when it comes to sprinkling the rooftop. So I think I'll kind of wrap that up for that as I'm running out of time. But for the next issue with air pollution in marginalized areas, specifically the Fifth Ward, I would call it. It's kind of hard to change that now because there's been a lot of damage, as we know, through our slides and other environmental justice movements. So you really can't turn back time there, but there is hope, but it's going to take a lot of Houston city officials to kind of go after this. But with the with the passing of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the Build Back Better Act, there is hope that Houston can get now funds to pay for a lot of these cleanup sites that are going to be needed to happen, but they're very, very expensive to do. So hopefully with partnership with the EPA, they can kind of get these funds and allocate it strictly to those situations. So I know a lot of people I've seen in an article that I will also put in my notes is that they've been fighting for this for quite some time, and there's a big group of people who are fighting for these funds to be directly allocated to this Superfund cleanup. But also, going forward, because that's only just a, kind of like a mitigation type situation, going forward to kind of adapt to this, Houston is really going to have to come up with some regulations, environmental regulations to kind of thaw and stop the introduction of new businesses that are pollutants. That's the only way that they're going to continue to combat this issue with air pollution and just overall toxins in the soil, etc., in these marginalized areas. So I think those two things combined can take care of a lot of issues that we're facing, especially within environmental justice in those inequality, lower income areas. Thanks, guys.